Hello and welcome to the Lipedema Patient Roundtable. We are excited to be here with almost our regular cast of characters and a special guest tonight, Paula Donahue. We're so delighted to have you with us at the roundtable. And she's coming to us from Nashville. She said she is here to answer any of the questions you might have or anything you want to talk about, as well as her involvement with the commission, the National Commission on Lymphatic Disease, and how that might impact those of you with lipedema in the audience. And let's do our hellos walking around the table here. Angelique Charles, the Lippy Butterfly, Pattie Cornute at Lipedema Fitness, Susie Beaujean, Lipedema Living, Jenny Beaujean, we love having you here. And of course, Linda Ann Kahn is only going to be with us for the first part of the show. So we want to go to her first. We know at any moment PGP may or may not show up. I know she's been having some health issues, and we are with you, PGP, whether you can be with us here or not tonight. We love you, love you, love you, love you. And hello to everybody who is logging on. We've got about 40 people that are on right now. Let us know that you are here. I know that you can chat because I just made sure everybody can chat. So please say hello in the chat. We love seeing you, chatters. You make the show what it is. It's fire. And Linda Ann Kahn, you are freshly back from Australia, which is why we didn't see you last month. Tell us what your takeaways were and what the high points were from the Lipedema Australia conference.
Well, first of all, you have to say Lipedema Australia. And I gave 2 talks, and it was really hard to keep remembering to say lipedema. And then I mentioned the Lipedema Foundation and didn't say lipedema. So they really want everybody to say lipedema so that it's not confused with lymphedema and lipidemia. So they're very, very strict about that. So I asked Cassie to speak to them at the Lipedema Foundation and see if that's a possibility for them. But that's the thing. But they are the most wonderful group of ladies. They are so, so wonderful. And there's Cara Cruz.
Oh, yay.
So it was a very exciting conference. They had 400 people between being there and online, and that's the largest that they've ever had. So they were really, really excited. Our Dr. Karen Herbst gave the most amazing talks, and one of them, she was talking about changing the stages to stage 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5. She introduced that at FDRS. I don't know how I'm going to get used to doing that, but she did present that. So I can't tell you everything. I've just selected a couple of things that I thought would be good. There is a wonderful lady called Kimmy Caddy, and she gave a talk on melatonin. And when I'm finished, I'm going to put these studies in the chat. But how important melatonin is, and to keep it, she's a dietitian, and to keep in with the circadian rhythms. So towards the end of the day, she's saying the lights should be dim, you shouldn't be eating late, you shouldn't be having a high carb meal either, because your melatonin is starting to be produced. And they found that the people who eat carbs and eat late and take melatonin to try and sleep, it interferes with the insulin production in the body. So if you eat more calories at night when melatonin is high, you will have poor metabolic health and insulin resistance. And she found that in her practice, 88% of her patients had hyperinsulemia, so had a problem. And we know patients with lipedema have insulin resistance. There's also a gene, and it's called MTNR1BN. And if you have that gene, it's a melatonin receptor gene, you will be more likely to get insulin resistance from this, and it affects your melatonin. So I'll pop the study in the chat so you can read up, all about that. And she wants you to eat. I don't agree with everything, but it's okay. We all have different opinions. She said you should eat a protein meal within an hour of getting up, because if you don't eat breakfast, then you're going to go into, you're going to not have enough protein. I do, and I know a lot of you do too. I do intermittent fasting and find it's great. I love it. It gets the cells into killing the cells, and I like that very much. But that's not what she's saying. And so she's saying when you eat, and what you eat, and the environment in which you eat has a very profound way upon how your body shows up to you. So she wants you to minimize the artificial light and really eat with the circadian rhythms. I work late, so I eat late. So I'm just dispelling everything she's saying, but it works. It works for her and for her patients, and she's beautiful. She has lipedema. So I just wanted you to say that. You can look her up, Kimmy Caddy, Kimmi, and it's Katte. If somebody could look that up for me, I didn't get that link. And then there was a great talk by Tara Carnicia. Oh my God, I was so excited. And Paula, you'll know her study on the key regulating. So she works with Dr. Raman Cheyenne, and she's actually the wife of Dr. Raman Cheyenne, and he is a hero there. I'll tell you in a little bit how he does surgery. He does all the surgeries. So he does all these surgeries, and the fat that comes out of the surgeries goes into her research laboratory. She works with other people as well. They're at Melbourne University. She's fantastic. And their goal is to see what is happening in the tissues. And she said, you need fat. You really need it for immunity, for temperature regulation, for energy. But the unwanted fat are the lipomas, the lipedema fat, and obesity. And she spoke about how stem cells make changes when you change the environment. And she looked at tissue signaling and cell maps that were altered in the lipedema tissue, and that the extracellular matrix, which is the connective tissue, where everything is and where the fascia is, that is altered in lipedema tissue. And she compared stem cells of lipedema to regular, and she found lipedema fat cells are larger. There's more stem cells in lipedema fat, and they have a different gene makeup than normal fat cells. There's fibrosis in the fat, and then they found many, many genes, but the one that they isolated was the BUB1, it's BUB1 gene, and that the extracellular matrix is made up of lots of little scarred up lipomas. She said it's like polenta stuck together or like super glue. So I thought that was really fabulous. And there's more collagen, and it's a different pattern. She spoke about collagen 6 and collagen 9, and I'd love to know what you say about that, Paula. And collagen 8 is higher in lipedema tissue. And then they did a study with 33 individuals from 9 families. And there was a whole conglomeration of them to work together. I think Peter Mortimer was one, many of them. And they've isolated a gene. And this gene was also with the help of Karen Herbst. And they called it Gene X. So they looked at how I'm sorry, my brain is going. All these diet things that we're using now, the GLP-1 agonists are working. And they looked at that mechanism and looked to see what they could do so we could turn off some genes, right? And so they removed this gene X from a mouse, and they found that if you removed it, the mouse couldn't make fat. So that's what they're wanting to work on, is the DNA and seeing how that all works. And they also, is fat different in different sites? Because they found that it is different. And that's really important if you're wanting to do grafting of fat from one area to another. The arm seems to be the best according to what they have found out so far. So just to summarize, and I did make some notes so that I could get to you, summarize. Lipedema fat is morphologically different, has distinct cell profiles with differentially expressed genes to that of obese fat. It's a key regulator of fat development, which modulates fat formation in healthy and diseased states. Adipose tissue is different in different parts of the body, functionally and molecularly. And fat grafting must be guided by the Fat Atlas and the research. So that's what I want to share with you guys. It was fantastic. I'm so glad that I went. And I'm just so dedicated to this community all over the world. So
You are, and that's why we are so honored that you always show up at this panel, Linda Ann. You're so connected with what's happening in the lipedema, or, we're going to say lipedema tonight because we're not in Australia. So we're not going to say lipedema, but thank you for bringing back that report. Of all the things that Linda Ann has said, what is striking you? And I see you nodding a bit, Paula, so I want to go to you, and any of the panelists jump in, and I know we're getting questions in as well.
So actually, Linda and I chuckle at the fact that they were calling it lipedema, because sometimes when I'm talking to my patients, and sadly, I talk fast and I try to slow down, but there's so much to cover in sessions. But I have said to many patients, I use the word lipedema when I'm using and going back and forth between the concepts of lymphedema and lipedema, because when talking fast, it's a lot easier for the brain to discern and to hear. I think even in some talks, I've even mentioned that before. So it makes me chuckle. So I honestly go back and forth, lipedema or lipedema, it's all the same. But I love that. I love that concept of what they're trying to do. Again, I've run into that as well. I don't have anything to say about the collagen. I think that is exciting. Did you happen to get a sense, Linda Ann, if there's any research that is closer for in vivo fat analysis to be able to determine the difference between the quantity and location of lipedema adipose tissue versus non-lipedema adipose tissue? You're muted, sorry.
They are definitely looking at the different areas and finding that it is different in different areas of the body.
Oh, yes, that makes sense. At some point it would be wonderful to be able to, while without having to extract fat, be able to look at the fat analysis, or be able to, I don't know. So I like to think about Knight Rider, if anybody on the show had ever watched that as a kid. And I always thought it was so much fun how he could call Kit with his watch and the car would come. And I always thought that'll never happen in our lifetime, and yet it can. So one of my hopes or wishes or dreams would be some engineering technology that would be able to discern between the different fats, so that a person living with lipedema would better understand her body if it's 25% lipedema and then or 50% lipedema, because I think we're going to continue to see and understand better with that type of analysis the spectrum of lipedema for different families and genetics and what people are dealing with.
I think that that's such an important point, that the more we learn, the more nuances that there are, and it's not one size fits all, just like when we talk about anything here. And if you're new to the roundtable, we talk about a lot of stuff. We always recommend you seek out medical attention. We're not dispensing medical advice, but certainly thought-provoking. And our panelists also speak from their personal experience, what's worked for them, what hasn't. Oftentimes what we find out is what works for one person may not be as successful for another, and listening to your body. We have questions coming in about GLP-1. Linda Ann, was there anything else that came up at that conference about GLP-1 drugs? Because I know that we have some discussion here tonight to talk about with some personal experiences. Anything else? Was it as hot of a topic there as it is in the United States?
Oh, it really wasn't. That was very surprising.
All right. Well, Shelley Shores is out there. And Shelley, we thank you so much for your question. She says, I may have missed this, but has Ozempic, Wegovy been discussed here with regards to lipedema treatment? We have done some shows in the past that touch on GLP-1. We actually have two panelists that are using two different drugs, and we inquiring minds want to know. So who wants to go first? Pattie Cornute, can I call on you first? You have always been very open about your journey. Again, this is her personal experience, and part of the journey isn't just taking the medication, it's getting to the point of taking the medication and all the research that you had to do. So jump on in there, and then after Pattie, please jump in Jenny Beaujean.
Yeah, so I've been doing tons of research on it before I went down the path of looking into it. Never wanted to be somebody to take these types of medications, and always wanted to use the fitness that I was doing to kind of keep my progression at bay, and I was happy with where I was at. But menopause came along and my symptoms really took a turn, and I got a lot more inflammation. Inflammation in my lobules between my thighs really messed with my posture, my gait, and my mobility took a massive hit. And that started to really concern me. So I began discussing with my doctor, and all the research I had been doing within the lipedema community had been giving me, there were some people who definitely it did not work for them. They were very open and honest about that. But several of the people that I'm very close with in the community had been using it for years and had great things to say about it. So I think it was December, I went to see my doctor and she finally put the prescription in. And I went through my insurance saying no for Zepbound, which was something I had seen in the community that more people found it worked better for the lipedema stuff than the Ozempic did or the Wegovy did. And my insurance said no, but then they had a little caveat of because you didn't try Wegovy first. And so even though they didn't approve any of them, I said, well, you know what the heck? Put in a prescription for Wegovy and let's see if we can get that approved. And my doctor had to put in a prior authorization. And my husband actually works for a medical or a marketing company for pharmaceuticals. And his HR person talked to the company, the insurance company, because one of their clients was actually Wegovy. So it was like, why can't our own employees, get this medication? Long story short, it got approved. I started in May with, the very beginning dose. And within the first week of taking the medication, I had noticeable improvements in my inflammation. I had, and I was looking at, unique things like my bra stopped rolling. And I was like, whoa, my bra's like where I put it this morning, so that I was always somebody who had to kind of adjust it all day. And I had a patch in the back of my head that was very puffy. And it was very alarming to me that I had this area of inflammation that's now in my head. And my jawline was really painful. And I had happened to be looking at a picture of Jenny and I at FDRS in April. We were standing together. And I had just taken a picture after a ride that I had done. And I was like, oh my God, it's, a matter of months. And my jawline was so drastic. It was incredible. And I was like showing it to my sister and showing it to my friend. I'm like, does this look different to you? Because it looks really different to me. And I could feel, my bone structure again. And it was so less painful. And the patch in the back of my head was totally gone. And it's stayed gone. So for me, it's really been about inflammation reduction. And then that was a lot of what I kind of discovered in the first month. And then in last month, I really started to notice that that inner thigh area was also coming down so that I was standing taller. Like part of my mobility challenges is I have a cane now for when I have to go longer distances. I had to extend the cane because I was literally taller. So, I'm experiencing some real inflammation changes, and that's really what I'm focusing on. And now the fibrotic tissue also I'm starting to notice, like I have the cuff and the back of my cuff. It's not nodules that I'm noticing changes in, but I have like a whole patch in the back of my cuff that is just really hard and really painful to touch. And like shoes hit it and it's really incredibly painful. And I went to massage that when somebody commented about fibrosis and had I noticed anything. And I was like, wow, I can massage it. It's not painful, but it's definitely better than it was before I started this. So I'm experiencing some really significant changes. And then in July, we switched insurance companies. So I'm actually in limbo right now as my new insurance company is putting me through the whole challenge of getting it accepted. So that's been my experience so far. I have been writing like monthly reviews of what I've been noticing. And if you go and check those out, check out the comments because other people are sharing what they're kind of experiencing too. And it's been kind of fascinating to see that. And I've had no side effects personally. I know that that is different for everybody, but I've not experienced any of the side effects.
This is a wonderful outcome. We're all applauding because,
Amazing.
Pattie, I know you're all about not just taking care of yourself, but making sure the people that follow you get good advice and make wise decisions. And of course, you never tell anybody what they should do, but you're a leader that says, all right, I will go and see how this impacts me, in the hope of, if anything, providing hope. Because every modality that you all try here at the Roundtable is intended to improve your lives, so that, yes, you may have lipedema, it doesn't have you, so that you can improve your gait and your mobility, reduce inflammation. That's why Lympha Press serves the lipedema community as well, because it offers pneumatic compression that can help increase mobility and reduce pain. That's why we're all gathered here. So thank you for sharing that, Pattie, and keep us posted. So with the change in insurance, now it's a little bit of a waiting game for you?
Yes, I should have started my 3rd month Sunday, and I haven't been able to because they haven't approved it yet. So I'm in limbo and hoping that it doesn't get beyond, I think there's like 2 weeks or something like that where you're okay, but once you get beyond that, you kind of have to restart again. So
yeah. Feel free, by the way, Paula or Linda Ann, from a medical standpoint, if you want to jump in. And thank you, Susie, for handling some of the chat as I navigate where we go next, which is Jenny Beaujean. You're on a different drug, but so tell us about your experience and what made you take the leap, because I know you don't do anything without seriously considering it.
Yeah, I'm medication averse, quite honestly. So for me to actually have, after 2 years, 3 years of thinking about it, come to the conclusion that I wanted to give this a try based on what I'd been seeing and hearing and the reading I'd been doing. I look into things a lot. My doctor talked to me about it 3 years ago. But the reality is, y'all know I wasn't diagnosed till 59, had great success with CDT, making my health better, reducing the lymphedema in my legs, just pretty incredible stuff. But over the last 3 years, some of that has been lost. And that was concerning to me. And it was really funny because Pattie and I met up in April, and it was really funny because we both said almost at the same time, I'm there, and so I actually went to see my doctor. And when I looked at my insurance formulary, it did not include Zepbound, but I said, I really want to try this. And she said, well, let's see if we can get the pre-authorization. And we did. And Zepbound is by a different company, and it has GLP-1s and another companion med in it. And I'd been reading a lot and seeing a lot of evidence that it had some lesser side effects. And because I have a lot of gut issues anyhow, that was kind of one of the things that was concerning to me starting this. And I am on week 9 successfully. I would say the amazing thing for me is on day 2, I realized as I was walking around the state office building that I work in, that I wasn't trying to multitask and make lesser trips because I was tired, I was achy, I hurt. And I realized my legs only felt like I was dragging around a couple extra bowling balls instead of a half a dozen on each leg. And that has continued. So, the lipedema is still there, lymphedema is still there, but the reality is a lot of the heaviness that I was feeling in the tissue has gone. I would agree on the inflammation. A lot of that the first week that I had felt in my body, I knew was gone. And that has continued over the weeks. I have when you start out on these drugs, you're starting out on a very low dose and titrating up to try to mitigate some of the side effects that some people experience. And I will say, I have a little bit going on in my gut. There's constipation that happens right after you take the med for some people. And I do find that, but my doctor and I have found things that work for me. So it's not bothersome. It's not worrisome. I've had a couple periods of deep fatigue that I didn't used to have that last maybe half an hour, and then they go away. But that's kind of unusual. But overall, so far I've been pleased. I'm not doing this as a way to lose a lot of weight because we know lipedema fat is there. And I'll say, Pattie, the same thing with the lobules on my inner thighs near my knees are definitely greatly reduced. And when I do my self MLD in the morning, it's like, oh, look at that. That lump isn't there that developed over the last 3 years. So it's been very interesting to go down this path. And the Zepbound, I'm very pleased with. There is a website that the FDA manages of drug shortages. And if you Google FDA and drug shortages, it'll tell you the status nationwide of these medications. And mine, which is called tirepizide, I can't pronounce medical terms, but if you type in TIR, it'll bring up where the status is of the Monjovi, which is the one for diabetes, and the Zepbound is specifically designed for weight loss more, which is what, because of my BMI, we were able to advocate for me being on it. So yeah, and I check in with my doctor. I've had follow-ups at 1 month, 2 months, and now I'm going 6 weeks. So I'm very closely working with my physician on this. So I'm hope, like you said, just in the pain.
Yeah. So does anybody else want to go ahead, Pattie?
Sorry, I just wanted to say, I just learned too, the manufacturer of the Mounjaro and the Zepbound, Eli Lilly, is also in the works on a third version that is talking about other hormones that they're targeting as well, the glycogen and stuff. So very interesting stuff.
Yeah.
We will definitely be pursuing this topic because it is a very hot topic in the lipedema community. Go ahead, Susie.
I just wanted to say something super interesting. So I've been working hard on my metabolic state. As you know, I'm obsessed with like zero sugar, but I also follow my blood sugars because I'm always trying to keep my insulin levels as stable as possible. And it's very interesting because the sweetener that we use in all of our products is allulose. And I'm not trying to promote my business, but what I was fascinated by was several studies have come out, and I'm starting to share those now, where allulose as a sweetener, which is a rare sugar that doesn't impact blood sugar, and it actually brings blood sugar response down when you add it to things. So I've already been using that to help keep my blood sugar nice and steady when I crave something sweet. But several studies have come out saying that it actually, there's evidence that it stimulates GLP-1. And what's interesting is that my daughter-in-law was doing semaglutides, and some of the symptoms that she was saying, like how she handles food and the way she responds to meals. And I started realizing that, I don't know, it was probably about 4 months ago. It was about 4 months ago that I really noticed a difference in my appetite. Like I eat, then I'm full, and I don't eat as much, and I can't overeat even if I want to. It doesn't feel right, and it's more of an effort, even if it's my favorite food. Like we had Mexican the other day, and I really wanted another little quesadilla, and I was like, I'm stuffed and I can't. So anyway, we have a pancake syrup that we created with our company, which uses allulose as the primary sweetener. And it's really a delicious syrup that tastes like a sweet and buttery pancake syrup. But I literally take a teaspoon every single day, whether I'm having something with it or not. And that's the only change that I know of. And then these studies came out, and I'm like, oh, that's fascinating. So anyway, there are some other ways to help stimulate GLP-1 too. I don't know all of them. I'm only just starting to dive into this because I definitely see that there's something to that, and the fact that it helps to reduce inflammation, which is, that's my wheelhouse. It's always like, what do I do to reduce inflammation? So, the low tox living and blah, blah, blah. So anyway.
And we appreciate how you dive into these topics. And we want to talk about toxicity a little bit too before the show ends tonight. Linda Ann, I know you have to leave us. Do you have any parting words before you go? Anything that we need to think about or something you're thinking about?
Well, I've had several patients on Zepbound and they're doing really well, but the one patient was still eating all the carbs and wasn't losing properly. So she got a bit of a lecture from me. And then I'm just trying as an experiment. I don't know enough about it, but I put it in the chat. There's a probiotic, GLP-1 probiotic, and the brand is Pendulum. And then also I posted something on inflammation, and there were other studies that I had seen with these drugs helping with inflammation. So that's fabulous.
Wonderful. Excellent. People are asking Susie about your products. If you could put in chat how people can connect with you, that'll be great. Paula, did you want to add something?
I just love these conversations are good. I think they're really important. They're the whole nutrition is a huge piece, I think, for quality of life. So, and as you had already mentioned, Brenda, it's an individual journey, but it's wonderful to be able to also talk with others to be able to start to understand how to best make a decision for an individual and how they want to pursue things and take it, one step at a time. I always to me, it seems like nutrition is a journey. We're always on this journey and it kind of just changes. I've got my kids who are now middle school and high schooler. And I remember my journey as a working mom is very different now than it was, when I was younger. So things like, how do you get dinner on the table and what does that look like? So anyway.
I love that real life example. That is so good. And we do have questions that have come in, but Jenny Beaujean, Sandy Darley had a question for you. Do you mind going to that? Because I bet you can probably pronounce it better than I can.
Yeah. Sandy and I share a diagnosis on our eyes. It's a rare eye condition called keratoconus. And which means it literally means our eyeballs are really warped. So the images don't meet on the back of the eyes like they're supposed to. And she asked if I'd seen any impact on that with the Zepbound yet. And the answer is no. I do have my ophthalmologist appointment coming up in about 3 weeks. So stay tuned. My keratoconus has been stable for about 20 years. So I haven't noticed anything as I'm looking around yet. So we'll see. They don't have any studies out on that, of course, but yeah.
Okay, good. And thank you for pronouncing keratoconus. Thank you. I've learned you're going to learn something at the round table every month. There's always something new I learn. Before we go into some of the other questions, I want to get to you, Angelique. And also, Kara, I know you showed up tonight and you're not feeling all that great. Can you give us an update? What's going on with you? Because we love you.
So I'm currently in a hospital room. Don't panic. It's not like I have a sleep study and I'm just waiting to be hooked up to wires to be told that you don't breathe at night. Here's a machine. Because I've known it for a while and was kind of in denial. And then Levi's like, babe, you scare me. I don't want you dying in your sleep. Go get a machine. So that's where I'm at now. But I have been sick basically since May. I got sick from my kid, and then my throat never kind of went normal. And I always feel like I have a bubble in it. I don't sound myself. I'm constantly stuffed up. And so 2 urgent care and a PCP visit, and I finally got a PCP that A, didn't mention my weight when I walked in there. B, checked me out. It was I think your tonsils need out. And I also want to send you for a sleep study and I want to do this and I want to do that. And proactive, all the stuff I had said before that everybody else kind of brushed me off. And then she was like, it's been over a year since you've been here. Can we take some lab work? I said, fine. You were nice. I like you. I'll agree. And so we did lab work. She called me today to let me know that all my labs were normal. Nothing is out of range. Nothing is out of whack. She was like, you're perfectly healthy other than your breathing issue, which, should be top priority. And I had an appointment on Monday, which was my mom's birthday, which was a rough day to begin with. But I had an appointment with a new ENT in Pittsburgh, and I went very defensive because I'm so used to fighting for myself for everything. So I went and I walked in, they shut the door of the room, and there's a BMI chart across from my face. So I was like on defense mode, and he's like checks my throat. He's like, "Oh, your tonsils are huge," and I was like, "Yeah, okay." And he's like, checks my nose, puts a camera down the nose. He's like, "This won't hurt." Hurt so bad on my right side, and left side didn't hurt. Right side hurt so bad. He was like, "Oh," he's like, "You have a giant blockage." He's like, "I don't know how you're breathing." And then he's like, "I'm actually gonna get the numbing spray because I want to like go a little bit deeper." So he get the numbing spray, numbed my nose, went back in, and he was like, "I have never seen adenoids this big in adults." He's like, "They normally disappear by adulthood. Like you shouldn't have adenoids." And I was like, "Well, are they part of the lymphatics?" He was like, "Yeah." I was like, "My lymphatics is fucked up." So doesn't surprise me. And he had like this look on his face, and so I started instantly in the like, I had 7 surgeries in the last like 4 years, like my body could handle it. And he was like, "I was just trying to decide if I was going to keep you overnight or not." He was like, "These have to come out." And I was like, "I'm sorry." Like, it's a defense. Like, we're so used to fighting for ourselves. But he was like, great. So
You bring up a really good point, PGP, that when you're used to fighting for yourself, it's hard to just sort of relax and
yeah.
and receive. So you are going to get the help you need because it hurts to listen to you.
Yeah, I'm tired of not sounding like myself. I'm tired of like feeling this bubble in my throat. It's giving me extreme dry mouth at night because like I sleep with my mouth open and like nothing's moving right. And so yeah, surgery is tentatively scheduled for September 6th. He's only there where my insurance will approve. He's only there the first Friday of the month. And August 2nd just felt too soon to like get everything in place, that because he wants to do a CT scan with dye contrast to see exactly like where the blockage is attached and the size, and he's gonna biopsy it to make sure that like nothing is like, it's nothing scarier than just like an adenoid. And I was like, so I thought that was gonna have to be a separate day. And he was like, no, he's like, "I'll biopsy it while we're waiting on the results. I'll take your tonsils out and then like go back in." And I was like, okay. And
We're sending all the good energy your way. And you also raised another point in our private chat, sort of like when you're focused on your lipedema, sometimes you can forget that there are other aspects to your health in life that also need attention. And it's really a juggling act. We honor all of you out there and all the different tools that you have to use to juggle your lipedema maintenance and your regular life, like dinner on the table or, and in your case, Angelique, getting to the gym is something new that you've started to do.
Well, I'm back at it. I had lost my gym privileges about 8 months ago. But man, I am back to being a gym rat. 2 hours a week, Monday through Friday. I am in there. And there was something that I really realized this time around back at it. Number one, it is harder for me to get my body back to where it was at when I was doing this 8 months ago. It's more of a struggle, but I realized that it's something that I actually enjoy. And like that realization helps me to get up and go every day, because no longer is it a situation where I am actually like using this to tackle my lipedema. I'm using this partially for my mental health, partially because it is what I'm enjoying doing in my day. On the 2 days out of the week that I only do the pool while I'm there, like I am enjoying the hour and a half to an hour and 40 minutes of having music on. I'm there completely by myself. Like nobody else in the gym even matters. And even with back to like lifting weights and things like that, I made a joke with one of my friends earlier today. I said, on one of my weight exercises, I'm up to 50 pounds. And I looked at, my caregiver, Greg, and I said, "Can I consider myself a power lifter yet?" And he goes, No. And so, well, it's taking all of my power. So I am now officially a power lifter. I don't care what you say. So, but if you enjoy it, it will help you to want to do it. And it does help you to feel better about the situation that you are in. Like, it's not fun walking around all day with a debilitating disease, with something that's disfiguring you, something that causes people to stare and all that type of stuff. But when you have something that you can get into a zone in and you really enjoy that, it cancels out all the other noise, at least for that period of time. And so I'm grateful to be back in the gym and going back to it tomorrow. No, not tomorrow. I'm taking tomorrow off. But Friday, we're back in there, baby.
All right. Well, I have to tell you that we can feel the energy through the Zoom screen. You have gone from a sense of, I don't want to say brokenness, but you've got your power back.
It was brokenness. It was absolute brokenness. Yeah. And even though going to the gym doesn't cancel out all of the other things that are going on, like I'm about to go to Indianapolis next week and make a decision, like a final decision on whether to rent my mom's house out or sell it, and that type of stuff. It's weighing on me heavily. I still just went through a breakup. I have 2 more meetings tonight alone. So I'm still overwhelmed with things, but I'm in a happy place because I'm getting to do something that I enjoy.
All right. So we're all happier now too, having heard that. Pattie, you almost levitated out of your chair, smiling at what Lippy was saying. This is what you live and breathe.
Yeah, I mean, the whole point of you feeling like you are taking action, and lipedema is so debilitating. It can really make you feel like a victim of this condition. And when you can do something to feel stronger in your body, emotionally, it is just like crazy how much that lifts you. And I know exactly what you're feeling because it's exactly why I do it. So I am so excited.
And since we last got together, there was quite an amazing event that I took part in, and many of you who are logged on or on the screen, give us a quick rundown. The Lipedema Triathlon, Pattie.
Yep, June 29th was our, yay, Jenny, was our 9th annual event. We had, I think, 100+ people participating all over the world. And next year is going to be 10 years. So we got to come up with some fun ideas and ways of celebrating this. It's just a wonderful way. It's an all or something event. So you do as much as you want to participate with us. And yeah, it's just a lot of fun. It's a great way to spread awareness. And so many people have said, I never would have even put a triathlon on my bucket list. And I'm so grateful that I'm now doing year after year after year. So yeah, it's really quite amazing.
VT Communications was honored to support the triathlon, and Brenda Viola was like, okay, well, if you're helping sponsor, you better get your butt in gear and do some stuff. And so I, who normally get crickets from my social media posts, the one post where I'm doing Zumba in my Lipedema Triathlon t-shirt went, well, it didn't nearly go viral because the girl who knows viral this month is Kara Cruz. How many millions of views did you get on your one video?
It's currently at 5.8 million.
If I get 5 comments, I get excited. So congratulations to you, Kara, and well-deserved. And it was all related to your surgery.
Yeah, it was like a picture of me and Dr. Jamie from my first surgery, like legs giant as could be. And then I had like this little Maya Rudolph meme over it, talking about your badass energy gets me excited, and I believe we could do it. And his energy with our game plan made me feel like, okay, we can actually accomplish this, and we have. So
Yeah, wow, wow, wow. Okay, so Natasha Wall has a question. I'm going to pose it of you, Paula, as you are our medical panelist. And she asks, should a patient be tested for specific hormonal conditions as a means to help decide which medicine would be better suited for the individual? She gets inflammation all over, even in her chest, but she can also feel her body becoming more insulin resistant as menopause steadily creeps into play. Any thoughts on that, Paula?
Well, I think it's an excellent point. Being a physical therapist, this is not my purview for being able to speak out into it. But what I have observed and is that the more that we can understand our bodies, how they change. This goes back to the concept I was talking about for journey, especially with the nutrition and how we can use nutrition and exercise to optimize how we feel, our quality of life, reduce inflammation as we age, because aging is a factor that is individualized, but there are some concepts that occur. And with hormonal changes, they're big. I fully support it. And then it's just knowing and finding your physicians. And I know that's a whole nother can of worms that people will run into, where they'll kind of go through that journey with them. But like I loved hearing how Pattie and Jenny, it sounds like your physicians are working very closely with you, which is wonderful to hear. And in general, I continued to hear more and more patients finding physicians that are engaging with them with lipedema and whether or not there's symptoms of lymphedema as well, which is wonderful. So, but I can't really speak to it from a medical perspective because it's really out of my purview.
No, thank you so much for weighing in. And we always say seek medical.
Mhm.
And by the way, if you're not getting what you need from your current medical provider, find another one. And, someone recently on a roundtable asked, well, how do I connect? Lympha Press is connected to amazing medical professionals, certified lymphedema therapists, people that understand lipedema all around the country. So if you connect with Lympha Press, our reps can help connect you with providers that are experts in this field. And some of you have asked questions too about what's the process to get a Lympha Press. And we're really excited. One of our longtime attendees, Marcia Witt, who is part of Pattie Cornute's lipedema fitness group, she recently got her Lympha Press and it's making a difference in her life. Now, by the way, she has been attending these roundtables for years. We're going to talk to her in September. She and her local rep, Dave DeBacco, are going to come on and talk about the process of getting a Lympha Press, getting the documentation necessary to get the therapy that you need. If you don't have a pneumatic compression pump, and we certainly prefer and are proponents of the Lympha Press, and it's not in your toolbox, many people have experienced great relief as a result, and we want to help you out. So that will be in our September show. Meanwhile, next month, we're hoping to have Susan O'Hara with us, who can talk about her new organization to serve the lipedema population. Anonymous attendee question about Lympha Press. She's currently using her leg sleeves 3 times daily for an hour each session. She's thinking of buying a cordless leg massager for both legs to use as a supplement for use when she travels. Now, I gotta say, a lot of people travel with their Lympha Press. Pattie, you have traveled with your Lympha Press. I know, Jenny, you have traveled with yours. PGP, you're always traveling with your Lympha Press. So if you're having difficulty packing it up in any way, shape, or form, there is a video on the Lympha Press website, tips for traveling with your Lympha Press. I would look that up. I would never say go get a cordless leg massager because I'm not your doctor, and I don't know how it could indicate or contraindicate with any kind of condition you have going on. Paula, do you have any suggestions about that? We know you have a lot of tools in your toolbox, and we're not saying only use the Lympha Press, but I would hesitate to say, yeah, go for it.
Well, so you bring up a good point. All of us listening in, we're sovereign over our own bodies and we want it to make logical sense and all that. But With that said, massager devices can be very effective for some, just like some find it just for mobilizing tissue. And then some of my patients use that to also help in specific spots, because it's a smaller tool. So it tends to be more of what I would consider to be a focused location or three, whereas the other concepts for lymphatic massage, which is why I love the pumps, because those are options for patients whose bodies benefit really well from receiving that stimulus on a regular basis, whatever that looks like, can be really good. And then it gets back to the movement and the exercise and the nutrition and how that influences a person's body by their mental well-being and then also, and most importantly, their body. So there's a whole host of all those, but I do like the massager tools. It's one of the many tools that people will try and see if it's impactful. I wouldn't ever have put the massager tool in the same category though as a pump. So maybe that's what's kind of helpful. It's trying to understand for each individual on this call in general, what are we trying to work on, or what are we using it for specifically? And then that kind of helps guide a person towards what are the tools that are available.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And PGP, I see you have some input on this.
Sorry, I was trying to find the unmute on my thing. Yeah, I wouldn't compare a massage gun to the Lympha press by any means. If you're going on a short trip, or if you're flying where you just cannot manage another suitcase with a Lympha press in it, a massage gun is better than nothing. Kaz Talks that we've had on, that we've all recommend, has great tips on the level of pressure to use, the type of tool to use. So she would be a good one. Again, she's not a doctor, but she does therapy stuff like that. She'd be a good one to check out for the type of device and which to level of strength. And then what I would do, because I've done this a couple times myself, that's what I'm speaking up on it, is I have gone back from walking an event and gone straight in the hotel bathtub with as cold of water as I could stand to kind of help with some of the inflammation, and then go into the hotel bed and elevate my legs with the comforter balled up underneath them, and then I'll do some dry brushing and the massage gun to get the fluid flowing that's been down from standing and walking, because it's better than just getting in the hotel bed and going to bed miserable and then tomorrow having double the fluid to move. So it's better than nothing, but it's nowhere on the level of a pump.
Gotcha. That's such good advice.
I would pick a massage gun over any Amazon leg pump, just because the Amazon leg pumps are not regulated by any kind of actual company or medical person behind the company. And a lot of the times they won't fit properly. And we try to make it work because we spent money on it and we need it. And then that could do more damage.
It's so true. And it's not medical grade necessarily, not FDA. I mean, the Lympha press is approved by the FDA for the treatment of lipedema. Go ahead, Jenny.
Really quick, when PGP was mentioning balling up a comforter, one of the travel groups that I belong to on the Facebook talked about they used their overnight suitcase on the bed as the thing to raise their legs up. And I thought, brilliant, because the comforters and the pillows are soft. And it's it made such a difference to use my suitcase.
That makes perfect sense. I love that. Okay. And I also wanted to just go back to that question and just say one little thing. You said that you have the leg sleeves. And whenever I talk to someone who has lipedema, I always try to advocate for the pantsuit, because the pantsuit, I mean, you're trying to make things smaller and it's bigger, but it covers from right below the chest through your abdomen and all the way down, helping to move all of that fluid. So if you want to talk to your rep, they can help you out. The Optimal Plus and the pantsuit, I say, are the 1-2 punch when it comes to Lympha press and how to best manage your condition. So Lori Heinzen has a question: suggestions for scar care post knee replacement. It's doing really well, Just a 2-inch spot is red. She's hand massaging and cupping. Sounds like you're doing some good things, and a 2-inch spot isn't all that bad. Paula, you're nodding. Anything you want to add to that?
Well, it sounds like it's closed. I don't know what the redness actually indicates. So I'm sure you're maybe working still with a therapist or having the orthopedist look at it. But we do want to mobilize that tissue quite a bit. It really helps for the effectiveness post total knee replacement. So that's really good. Some patients, whether just speaking of scars, when it's intact, putting on a scar strip, a silicone scar strip that oftentimes now is not that expensive. Amazon does have it, and it comes if you don't have a contraindication to an adhesive, but people will cut that to whatever length that will clearly cover the scars, and it also helps to just calm the look of the scar. So that is more from a cosmetic end, like also following liposuction procedures as well. But definitely mobilizing that scar and doing the exercises and cupping is a wonderful strategy for doing that as well. And then again, to the redness part, that would just be something that's going to be very specific to the collar to just make sure that everything is still going okay. But it probably is. I mean, it takes easily 6 months for scars to calm down, and that also is an individual body response. And with it being summertime here in the U.S., at least, we trying to not have as much sun exposure to that will also help to reduce and allow for that tissue to kind of come to the same color as the rest of the skin color.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Paula. What a joy to have you. You have an open invitation. Whenever you want to show up at the round table, we love having you. We haven't even gotten to the whole topic about the commission. I do want to address one thing. Laura Westendorf, thank you for this question. She put it in chat. Does Lympha Press educate physicians, OTs, and PTs on appropriate documentation? The answer is yes, yes, yes. Our reps are experts in what T's need to be crossed and I's need to be dotted so that you can get the therapy you need. So connect with your local rep. You can do that through lymphapress.com or through me or through anyone here on this panel. We can connect you to Lympha Press, get you the help you need for that. Francine Schwartz, has anybody used GLP-1 probiotics, and are they worth it? Does anybody have anything to say about that?
I use a probiotic, but Linda Ann had put that exact GLP-1 in the comments before she left. So I would imagine if she suggested it and put it in the comments that it's got some value.
Okay, great. So we can look at that. Sandy Darley. Sandy, we thank you for being with us tonight, and we appreciate you always. Her garments keep sliding down. She wears garments that go from her toes to her boobs, and she can't keep her garments up. They slide down. Anyone have suggestions for sliding garments?
Do they have like straps, or do you know somebody that could sew that could add like a loop and a strap, almost like a suspender? Because my full bodysuit by Lipoelastic has like built-in suspender straps, and I find it helps greatly to keep up the bodysuit. For my flat knit knee-high medi compression, when it is getting close to them needing to be replaced, like I've dragged it out too long, I use the roll-on adhesive called It Stays. I found it on Amazon, and the Juzo version of it doesn't irritate my sensitive skin with like my mast cell and gingerness, but the Jope's new formula irritates. I got welts and all kinds of stuff. So stick with the old version of the Juzo. That's the one that worked best for me.
And there's other comments in chat about different brands that people do like. Any other final comments on that?
Sometimes custom in certain areas can be more helpful than off the shelf if that happens to be a feature. And in certain areas where it's soft tissue, not around bony structures like elbows, but it would be cinched a little bit then as well. Just because you'd think like for an arm sleeve, we wouldn't want it to, they would cinch it kind of midway, but usually reps who are doing the fittings would know that for being able to help appropriately make custom garments that are less likely to slide down but still be comfortable to wear.
Excellent.
Yeah, and they do alterations too. So I would reach out if they are custom garments.
We are 1 minute before closing time here. Paula, I definitely wanted to give you a moment to talk about the commission.
Well, it's just kind of a statement, is that if anybody on the call is not aware, it's exciting times. There is now a commission through the NIH, our National Institute of Health. And what I think that speaks to in general is that more and more of an awareness for lipedema is out there. It's specific for lymphatic diseases, and lipedema is a part of it. So it's called the National Commission on Lymphatic Diseases. And I think there's just going to be more to come. If anybody had been aware of the open call for information, there was a chance all the way up until the end of June to hear from anybody, and that means a patient or a caregiver, researcher, clinician. But the hope is that there will be more and more of patients, really more researchers and clinicians, and growing education. And this is just one of the many things that might be of help. But really, this commission comes from a lot of hard work that many individuals who love and breathe lymphedema and lipedema got to this point. So it's just exciting, and I hope it'll keep changing, because a lot of us on this call have probably run into our battles with running into clinicians and not having enough research in this area. And of course, it's a slow moving train, but it's exciting to at least look at these wins and the future opportunities.
And that's a great note to end on, the wins. From Linda Ann going to Australia and bringing back cutting edge research, and what we all experienced, those of us that dug into what was happening at FDRS or seeing the aftermath of FDRS, everything from the lipedema triathlon to the lippy butterfly getting back in the gym and powerlifting. All of you are inspiring. Susie, can we spend a little extra time next month talking about toxicity and all the research you've done? Because we sort of have run out of time, and we appreciate all that you do in that area. Jenny Beaujean, and Kara, feel better, for goodness sakes. And most of all, to all of you, Cecilia Furtado and Christine Marquette and Christine Roberts and Danielle and Debbie and Debbie and Debbie and Edwina and all of you amazing people. You show up and you make this roundtable work. It went by like this. There was a lot of good clinical information. We hope that you got help and encouragement tonight. That is always our aim. We'll see you again next month. Have a great night, everybody. Love to everybody.